Passing. Just about that. Okay, so let me tell you a bit about Windsor Castle. Thanks to the fact that it's Sunday, we're doing really well with the traffic, which is fantastic. So I hope those menus are passing back nice and quickly, folks. I'm sorry to make you make quick decisions, but I don't want you to miss out on this lovely food. So Windsor has a very, very long history. It is the
Windsor Royal Station. We just stepped out of the bus, and this is just by the side of the castle. There you can see the Windsor Castle on the right. Sound of an aircraft touching down.
People of Windsor he met while he was staying in this building. The other thing up there next to the plaque is actually a copy of the death warrant of King Charles I when he was executed by his people in 1649. And one of the signatures up there is, of course, that of Oliver Cromwell. So 1649, execution of the king. 1660, we had the monarchy back again. We had 11 years of a republic. And that lady there, on that pink building, see the pretty lady, that's Nell Gwynn. She was the chief mistress of our new king in 1660, King Charles II, who was a bit of a naughty boy with the ladies. And that was one of his favourite girlfriends, basically.
In the grounds and when coming up, one house and 500 and within the grounds there are two more stately homes. The Queen's Lodge and Frogmore House by William the Conqueror.
We have just stepped in from the ticket rooms, about to enter the castle. The clock striking 10 now. Inside the castle. It's a panoramic view of the castle. That's the story of how the castle came about. That's the St. George's Chapel on the right hand side, where many kings are buried. And you can see the Royal Guards. This castle is right next to the Heathrow Airport, so you will frequently hear the sound of aircrafts. This is the moat, which used to be filled with water to protect the castle so that invaders can't get in. That's another view. And we are now about to enter the apartments, the gallery, the Queen Mary's Doll's House, which is all located on North Terrace. Just about to enter the state apartment and the doll's house. This is where it is housed, and you get a hillside view of the greens around the Windsor Castle. That's the changing of guards at the Windsor Palace. Wait, changing of guards.
They'll be ready where the pride is. You look behind me, they are.
That's inside the Windsor Castle. That's the China shop. And they've built this castle right next to the airport. What an idea! Kata kati ele. St. George's Chapel. Victorian women. Chalo acha. On our way back to the Windsor railway station. That's the view of the shops and the crowd. One last look at the Windsor Castle before we depart.
In a car, quite often driving herself still. The late Stone Age, and what it was a raised bank of earth with a ditch around it, and a bank, a bank around the outside, so a flat round circle. And those people buried in there are exactly contemporary with this very early phase of what we now call Stonehenge. Now, about 600 or 700 years later, the first stones arrived on site. We're now in the early Bronze Age. And these stones are not local, this is incredible. Now there is stone really nearby, okay, but the people who built the first stone structure at Stonehenge, particular area, it was called the Preseli Bluestone. And so just maybe that particular type of stone was for some reason sacred to these people. Some of whom have died by looking like they've been crushed by time. They were frozen around in the winter, possibly on rollers. You've probably seen pictures of people building the pyramids, and you think they probably floated them down rivers on rafts part of the way. But that was the first stones to arrive. Then about 600 or 700 years after that, the next lot of stones arrived, and these are enormous. These are called the Sarsen stones. They come from just 20 miles away. So
we are at the tiny little village of Thurston, where our bus has stopped for a lunch break. We decided to walk down to this small village, and we were surprised by the quietness and the peace that exists in this village. This is probably used by people staying in London as a weekend getaway. This is the Thurston War Memorial Hall. Speaks a lot about the people staying here. Dana, it is Samne. Dana? Hey. We are at this place. That's the Georgian. That says it all about this place. This style of thatched roof was very common in the farmhouses, but they have now disappeared. Some of the houses have still got this touch with the past. Our bus has stopped at this 14th century inn, or the 15th century probably. Lovely little place. We have just arrived at Stonehenge. Stonehenge is a group of stones that have been lying here for more than 5,000 years. This place is surrounded by a large number of burial grounds. More than 550 to 600 of them have been discovered at this site. Place around us, it's almost in the middle of nowhere. It's very, very strange. There's some purpose and intent behind these group of stones, but no one has quite discovered yet what was the reason for putting them up. And remember, this is 5,000 years ago, when bronze was yet to be discovered. That is close to 1,000 years before the Bronze Age. So you had these people who had built these stones, bring them along from the nearest mountain site and put them up here. The stones had to be chiseled. How they did it is a wonder. One theory has it that they did it by the shoulder bones of animals, which have been found in the burial grounds along with the bodies. One theory of why these stones were made is that it was a giant astronomical clock. There's a heel stone in the center of this group of stones, on which is called the Midsummer Night Stone. That is, on this day the sun falls straight on the stone. There's also a stone called the heel stone, and those two stones that you see there lying flat were actually upright at one point of time. So it was probably a giant circular slab of stones supported by columns, which were actually stones, which we see now. Lovely English countryside. You can see with the heel stone there. Lovely meadow. One of the burial mounds, I'm sorry. You can see some more over there. And people on one of them. There are close to 450 to 500 odd of them. We are at the ancient city of Bath. It once was a Roman city, and remnants of it you can see in these baths. This was the king's and the queen's bath. We'll go into it later. Right now, International Guitar Festival between 25th July and 8th August. A lot of things keep happening in Bath.
पहना हुआ है पता वो she is wearing a Punjabi suit. कोথায় Punjabi suit?
না বলছি the road to Bath. The lady having an ice cream. Here on the Paltney Bridge, the bridge which has shops. Apparently there are very few such examples existing in this world, and this is just on the river Avon. Remember Shakespeare, who was born at Stratford on Avon? This is that famous Avon. Cattle of ducks. These are the shops alongside the bridge, the Paltney Bridge. Bless you. You can see those buildings along the hill. Beautiful view from here. A river cruise about to depart. Getting into the Roman baths. Crooner singing away. On the left is the Bath Abbey.
Three springs in the city, 3 hot water springs. It starts as rainwater 10,000 years ago, and it starts at permeating on a set of hills called the Mendip Hills, 15 miles away from this city. And as the water permeates down through the lias, the clay, the lias, to the bedrock, it gets heated up on the mantle. That hot water has to find a way of escape. The springs are over the road, being used in our new bathing complex when it opens. But the spring here was the name Goddess Sulis. Nothing was here before the Romans came. Spring every day and worshipping their goddess Sulis. Well, Sulis is the water coming out of the earth, and that water coming out of the earth here, which we can't see at the moment, we will be using the water for a reservoir to filter the water into the Roman baths, because you can't just have a spring splashing up and hoping the water will lead somewhere. They built this large sports and leisure centre. Floor across the spring, a hole in the middle of the spring, and the water coming up through the medieval period, and they had to knock that flooring in to discover the reservoir below. So have a look out there.
Have we got the bubbles up?
Yeah.
Yes, I've got a song.
It's very warm in this building, is because we can feel the heat from the spring coming up. To visit here, we know that because when the spring was excavated, not only horses were taken out of the spring, but lots of coins too. And looking at the coins, we knew they were from all the way around the road.
That's a view of how the Roman bath would have been probably 2,000 years ago. the temple pediment, the remnants from that temple. Remains excavated. Original Roman.
Right, if my group wants to gather over here a little moment, then I can explain this picture to you. What we've got coming in the top channel is the water to the Roman baths. It's going out the bottom channel.
This is the modern day jacuzzi built by the Romans, where both the male and the female could come in. And we are getting into the the pool area for women. This is how it looks.
On the other side of the big back, we'll take a look where the spring is. One going down to the left-hand side of the area.
Going underneath the floor and going out of the building. So the floors would be hot and the walls would be hot. You have a potitarium, a tepidarium and a coldarium. And a coldarium is the hottest room. This is a gargoyle's small pot today. Because it's right away from the east. Your pores start.
Hello.
In that direction, on the site of the Lucernic glass flowers of the so that's the site, this site of the Romans. When they left, the site was lost under the Romans. Thank you very much. Let's go over there. So, the washroom's just up there.
Legend of Bladder and the Pigs. Pigs eat acorns. Behind the acorns, the windows of the tiny rooms where the servants would have lived. Okay, now bring your attention right down to the bottom to the basement. Because in the basement, that was where your cook was. That's where your cook was, with your kitchen. The butler and all the footmen had their offices down there. And then on the ground floor, you've got very wide front doors. And that's because your sedan chair can go right inside. The thing on two sticks that gentlemen carried you around in, boot scrapers on the floor, so you could scrape your mud off your boots. And then on that floor, you had the family reception room. See tiny little pictures all the way around, square pictures. Every single one of those is taken from a 16th century book on magic, mysticism and Freemasonry. So isn't that beautiful? I just think it's a beautiful block. I'm going to have a house here. Some of them are still whole houses, you know. Anyway, you'd come out of your house in George's Bath, just behind this bus, very large building with columns in front of it. That is the assembly room. That's where Jane Austen used to come to park. Isn't that lovely? And those hills you can see in the distance, the hills of South Wales. If you have very sharp eyes, you might be able to pick out the Severn Bridge. The Severn is the river that runs between England and Wales. Yeah, just go straight left here.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Tumpa. Happy birthday to into Madame Tussauds, and this is the first floor that we see here. Hey! Cherry Springer, Nicolas Cage, that's Sylvester Stallone, Michael Jackson, the King of Rock, Elvis Presley, Marlon Brando. Alfred Hitchcock. Chalo. That's Sleeping Beauty. Vladimir Putin, John Howard, Prime Minister of Australia, and Jake Chirac, the President of France. Thank you. The great poet William Shakespeare. The fifth. Jahan. That's Dalai Lama. George Washington. Abraham Lincoln. Richard Nixon. Ronald Reagan. And Natasha Bonaparte. That's Napoleon Bonaparte. The Duke of Wellington, Lord Admiral Nelson. King Henry VIII. Charles Dickens. Chamberlain. Oil থাকে হ্যাঁ হঠাৎ কিছু বেরোবে আতঙ্কিত হয় না। The methods of execution. Aldrin and Neil Armstrong. This was built on the 30th anniversary of man's moon landing. Watching the journey to infinity. It's huge. An air of expectancy. Hey, Shiva. That's the definition of the Queen's lifeguards. Nelson's column at Trafalgar Square. And view of this huge courtyard. That's Downing Street, heavily guarded. You can't go beyond this point. Look this way. Standing at the gates. Can't proceed beyond this point. Those set of red brick houses. That's number 12. Number 10 is just next doors. The Union Jack fluttering on top of the Houses of Parliament. Then on the other side you can see the Big Ben. Protesters protesting against the Iraq war. Right in front of Westminster Abbey and the Houses of Parliament. That's Parliament Square. Oh, very good. St. Margaret's Church. That's St. Margaret's Church. St. Margaret's Church in the background, inside the Westminster Abbey. Decorated doorway, sculpture. It's closed today for tourists. Westminster Abbey. That's the side walls of Westminster Abbey from the outside. Inside we were just listening to an organ recital. I'm in front of Shakespeare's Globe. This is how it was during the times of William Shakespeare. It's on the south walk, just by the side of Thames. You see a view of it, St. Paul's in the background, and the Millennium Bridge. We do have conducted tours and exhibition of this historic place. That's the entrance. We also have regular shows from Shakespeare's plays. I am standing in front of the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. That's exactly on Knightsbridge, Kensington. The V&A, as it is popularly called, is supposed to be the first museum in the world, which was set up in 1858. Remember, 1857 we had the historic uprising, the Sepoy Mutiny in India, and the very next year in London you have the Victoria and Albert Museum being set up. It's a huge place. Starts off there at the far end, and behind this building there are 3 more buildings which house collections from all over the world, right back from the 1st and the 2nd century. As far as India is concerned, there are interesting objects from the Mughal court, Shah Jahan's wine cup, Tipu's tiger, and a number of other objects which we shall see shortly. That speaks for itself. Victoria and Albert Museum, the National Museum, Art and Design. That's a map of the museum. So the extensive collections are spread across 7 floors and are grouped by 5 major themes. These are the major themes. You have Asia, Europe, materials and techniques, modern exhibitions. We are now standing in the South Asia Gallery. shall see some of the interesting objects that are here. This is the bronze statue of Vishnu, excavated at Coimbatore in the 10th and 11th century. It was bequeathed to the museum by Lord Curzon, Viceroy of India. Look at that wonderful piece. This is another piece dating back to the 12th century Chola period, Shiva Nataraja. This was bequeathed by Lord Hill. There you can see the statue. Beautiful Nataraja. That's the figure of Shantinath, made in bronze, dating back to 1168 AD during the Chauhan's period. You will remember Prithviraj Chauhan, probably belonging to this dynasty. Beautiful statue. There is the statue of Parsvanath, belonging to the Chalukya period, 12th century. Statue of Parsvanath or Mahavir. Parsvanath is probably one of the incarnations, one of the Tirthankaras of the Jains. Get a closer look. Gleaming body. This is Surya, sun god.
Nie kojarzysz tej historii? Nie wiem, po prostu tak.
A to pora w ogóle jest.
This is the statue of Durga as Mahisasur Mardini. This belongs to the Deccan Hoysalas. There's goddess Durga, the 10-armed Durga, killing the demon king Mahisasur, who had taken on the form of a buffalo. This belongs to the mid-13th century. Statue of Buddha. This is the statue of the Buddha dating back to the Palas. Remember, Palas ruled Bengal. The nose and the mouth has been flattened. The right arm is missing. So are parts of the left hand. That's another representation of Surya, the sun god, belonging to the Pala period, the 9th and the 10th century. Parts of the figure has been disfigured. Mahakal. Statue of Mahakal dating back to the Pala period in the 12th century. This is Bodhisattva Vajrapani. This is dated around the 9th and the early 10th century. The celestial figures. These are from Orissa. This is King Narasimhadeva and his spiritual advisor. Narasimhadeva I was the builder of the famous Konark temple at near Puri in Orissa. Statue of the four-armed Vishnu. You can see the other arms behind. Parts of the arm are visible. That's from the terracotta tile with ascetics dating back to the Gupta era in the 4th and the 5th century of India. The figures in between the two ascetics is that of 35. That's in Kharashti script. That's Haryana. That's made of ivory. Shows the descent of Buddha from Tusita heaven. Getting back to the 8th century, my goodness, 1200 years ago. Lovely figure. Is again the figure of Durga, Mahishasura-Mardini, made in copper, and it's dated around the 9th and the 10th century. That's Shiva, brass with silver inlay. That's the plaque, image of Vajrapani. This also dates to the 12th century. That's the figure of Bodhisattva, Avalokiteshwar, and the Buddhist goddess Tara. This statue of Buddha preaching into the 10th and the 11th century. Vishnu Chaturamurti. Vishnu on the four sides of the stone. Shiva and Parvati are seated in the relaxed Lalitasana posture on a cushioned throne draped with a tiger skin. It's clearly visible. Beautiful piece of architecture. Statue of Bodhisattva made of ivory. Throne legs made of ivory. The throne sitting on top of these two lions. Death of the Buddha, dating back to the 2nd and 3rd century. A relief panel from a Buddhist monument, probably a stupa, depicting the Buddha's death. This is another part of the death of the Buddha, lower half of a relief, which shows 4 disciples mourning the death of the Buddha. And this is one of the reliquary in the form of a stupa, which was supposed to have contained ashes of the Buddha. This dates back to the 2nd and the 3rd century. Section of a fragment. All of these date back to the early years of this century. I'm sorry, the 1st century rather. Kuber. Part of 15th century. That's around 530 AD. Can you imagine that? This is Durga's Mahishasur Mardini, 7th century. Model of a ship made out of stone. It's a ceremonial ship and it's dated around 11th and the 12th century in eastern India. Bodhi temple, both there. That's a statue, replica of it. That's a seal. With Gaja Lakshmi design dating back to the 6th and the 7th century. That's supposed to be the donor. Family of 4 goddesses, mother goddesses and Kuber. Next one is Shiva and Parvati with Ganesh. Ganesh, the elephant god. It's dated to the 9th century. During the Pala period. That's the head of the Buddha. That's dated around the 7th and the 8th century. Look at the amount of detail that is visible on these statues. Dating back 400 AD. Statue of Parshvanath. It's dating to the 7th century. All ancient pieces which are rarely seen in other museums in India. We are about to enter the Nehru Gallery of Indian Art. 1550 to 1900. Sponsors. And donors. Note the name of Amitabh Bachchan. We are now inside the Mughal Gallery, where you can see the wine cup of Emperor Jahangir, who was the father of Emperor Shah Jahan. He built the Taj Mahal. This cup is made of green nephrite and dates back to around 14 AD. These are the turban jewels. Next to the turban jewels is the wine cup of Emperor Shah Jahan. This is made of white nephrite jade and dates back to around 1657 AD. And mind you, jade is extremely hard. So it had taken a lot of effort to have done this. Of a goat, beautifully carved. The stand is like a blossoming lotus, and then there are designs of petals, leaves, bottom. This is yet another miniature, smaller one, jade cup made of white nephrite jade, and it dates back to the Shah Jahan period. This cup has been kept on a mirror so that you can see the reflection of the designs. This is a spoon, gold engraved and set with rubies, emeralds and diamonds. And you can see the diamond right at the top, dazzling. Cameo portrait of Emperor Shah Jahan. That's the history of the thumb, collected from the court of Seringa Pattam of Tipu Sultan. This one is a thumb ring made of garnet set with diamonds. That's the thumb ring of Shah Jahan, made of white nephrite jade, inscribed in gold. Persian inscription, Sahibi Kirani Sani, the second lord of the conjunction. Timur Ilang was the first lord of the conjunction. That's Tipu's tiger, which was actually a musical instrument. When one would move this crank, then the hands and legs of this figure, dressed as a European, would move and it would make groans. This is supposed to be the famous sword of Tipu Sultan. It has inscriptions on its body, which are in Persian, and mention that it is the personal sword of Tipu Sultan. This particular helmet was supposed to have been picked up after the fall of Seringa in 1799. It was presented to Lord Frederick Fitzclarence by the Maharaja Holkar. Apparently this telescope was taken from the body of Tipu Sultan after the fall of Seringapatam on May 4th, 1799. This is the brooch which was taken from the turban of Tipu Sultan on his death at Seringapatam on May 4th, 1799. This is a pocket watch which is supposed to have been taken from the body of Tipu Sultan after he died. We are now about to see one of the historical areas in the V&A Museum, which is the Refreshment Rooms, also known as Morris Campbell and Pointer Rooms. At this point, we are standing inside the Morris room. Richly decorated roof. So the walls painted glass paints all sides of the room. We are now inside the gamble room, which was once the refreshment room. People would sit here and drink tea, coffee, and have snacks. This is still one of the theatre rooms where often talks by eminent people are held, also open to corporates and individuals to hire this room for individual events. This is simply superb. That's the fireplace. Statue is so perfectly carved. You can look at the back side of this statue and it's as perfect. The italic Venus was displayed in 1862. This is the pointer room. Painted designs on the walls. From the Aesop's fable, if you remember. This one is also from the Aesop's fable. You can see the fox and the crow. Beautiful. Closer look. We are now on the ceramic staircase, which is richly decorated. One has to really see this to fully appreciate the extent of decoration. Description of the designs. That's the flight of stairs that leads you up to the ceramic staircase. See the designs on the walls, and then on the roof. All this is made of ceramic. We are on the landing, first landing, just above the landing on the roof. See the design. Then on the second landing, design on the roof and along the wall. As we go up the staircase, you can see the designs. Lovely, beautiful design. After the staircase, you're led into the silver gallery. This is what the gallery would have once looked like. Down the years, the changes that have happened, this gallery. That's silver galleries. one of the two pillars that have been restored from the remains that were found from the other pillars. Pillars on the other end are normal, plain, without any designs. This is the wine's cooler. It's a silver discover area. You can read and learn a lot about silver, interactive tools, and displays instruments that are used. Stages in the making of a silver spoon when it used to be handcrafted. This is the story. That's the history of this piece. That's how small or big that piece is. Magnificent one. Supposed to be weighing 1,310 ounce, 319 ounce. 1000 kg, 1000 pounds plus. Beautiful piece. Another piece of beauty. Candelabra. It was presented by the son of an Egyptian prince, which bears figures of camels and horses. This is a bolero jacket made by Claire Robinson, and that's a bit about Claire Robinson and the dress that she made. She's a renowned designer of jewelry and decorated with jewels. And on all sides. This is how it looks from the back. Glittering silver. it doesn't weigh all that heavy because the straps are on the shoulders actually carry all the weight. So if you are thinking that it's going to be very heavy to wear, apparently it's not. This is another collection, it's called Mannerisms. Collection for Spain and Portugal. We are inside the tapestry gallery. This is one of the examples, the boar and bear hunt. It's a huge one. Similarly, the next one are equally huge. Great pieces of creation. Wonder how many days it would have taken them to create this. This is what it is called, falconry. This is the history of the Devonshire hunting tapestries. The deer hunt. Let's see a deer which has been hunted. We're entering the British galleries. As we enter, there's display of vases. This one, Castor and Pollux. Model of the stagecoach around the 1760. You see the first painting of Salisbury Cathedral. This is of Bridal Bridge, Westmoreland, painted around 1800. And this is of Conway Castle, North Wales, by moonlight. Remember, this is on a moonlit night, and painted around 1794. Snake has ruby eyes. Rhinoceros at the top of the vase, which is called rhinoceros glass.
Aquí sí. Sí, porque la de mi hermano es de 2 metros de ancho y no es tan grande como esta. Madre mía, a lo mejor es de 3x3. ¿Qué cosas habrán hecho en esta cámara?
Yeah.